How are you
Good
this
morning.
morning?
Good. I'm good this morning.
Good. We had an eventful weekend again, didn't
We
we?
did. It was a nice weekend. We got to see the kids and the grandkids, and we did our Christmas this weekend, and we got to do family pictures. So it was nice. We haven't done them for about 3 years, so
It was
it
good to
was
get
really
some
good.
pictures. Yeah, it was good to get some pictures in. It was very um, reminding to me of just all the work that we've done in raising our family, and the results are astounding. It was exciting to see the kids there all in one place.
Well, the littles grow really quickly, you know.
Oh yeah, yeah. The little ones are growing up like weeds.
So,
Crazy.
so yeah, it was good to spend the weekend with them. Well,
It
the
was.
day with, but
It was. Yep. Take a day and invest with them. It was great. So, okay, Rebecca, what is our topic this morning?
So this morning's topic is evaluate. We've been working on the 6 steps. So we've done awareness, commit, implement.
Learn.
Oh, sorry, forgot it. Learn, implement, and now evaluate. So take all of that stuff that we've been doing, the first 5 steps, and now we're going to go back and see how it's working, see how it's going.
Yep. The evaluation stage is a very, very critical stage. It's a stage that I see a lot of people miss, and this is one of the reasons that we added it to the 6 steps. Is if we're not thinking about testing anything that we do, then we can't really say that we're most effective, most efficient. We just simply cannot say that. So it's one of those things that I see in agriculture, for example, where we invest a lot of time in the precision ag industry. There's a lot of people that focus real heavily on application processes, but not as much about evaluation processes. And that's one of the things that is very, very critical in my mind is if you're going to apply anything, you want to evaluate what you've applied and how you've applied it so that you can test the real results. And that's something that we have to get very good at. We have to learn to understand. We have to actually seek out ways to go about doing that. And it's one of the things that cause us, it's a cause, again, to elevate and get a better outcome. So it doesn't matter really what you're doing in life. The evaluation phase is something that needs to be included consistently.
Yeah, and it's not just, you know, like some of this stuff that we're talking about might be new stuff that you're aware of or
Mm-hmm.
something, but this evaluation stage is something that you need to do consistently, not with just the new stuff, but stuff that you're already doing.
Yeah.
Is it working? Is it not working? Do I need to pivot? What do I need to do differently?
Yeah.
And I think it's a question, like I said, not just with the new stuff you're doing, but with the stuff that you are consistently doing.
Mm-hmm.
It might be stuff that you've been doing since you started your business 10 years ago and go back and evaluate it and dissect it a little bit.
Yeah. Well, so one of the things that um, John Maxwell, again, those of you that know us, John Maxwell is one of our mentors. And one of the things that John is very well known for with all the success that he's had is he will put something together and they'll run it. They'll be very successful with it. And the first thing that he'll ask is, how do we make it better? Right? He'll step in, he'll lean in, he'll get with his leadership team and go, this is amazing. Great job. How do we make it better? How do we make it better? How do we expand it further? How do we take it to more people? How do we serve more? And John is always looking for that next, how do we make it better? And that was one of the reasons we put this in here. When we look at the evaluation process, we go in and we really want to be able to look at what we're doing, especially those things that work really well. I hear so many people that are like, "Oh man, you won't learn anything except from your failures. You only learn from your failures." I totally disagree with that. 100% disagree with it. Because while we are learning from our failures, that's important. We better be learning from our successes. We better be learning from the things that we are doing well, because that's what you want to grow on. That's what you want to expand on. That's what you want to do very, very well multiple times over. And those are the things that we have to continually look at, is how do we expand the things that we're already doing better. And that's one of the
Right.
things that we miss often in business world.
Well, and another part of that is, things change. Things change, technology changes. The way that we do things changes. It used to be that the easiest way to get a hold of somebody was send a letter in the mail. How much has that changed? So, you've got to look at that in the aspect of what you're doing.
Yep.
So you can continue to do what you're doing, but maybe do it in a different way.
Exactly. Exactly. And in a better way for your customers, for your clients, get feedback, things of that nature. So the evaluation process, again, is it's part of the 6 steps of personal development. But I'm hoping, what those that have been watching the Monday Mind Shift, I'm hoping people understand that these 6 steps work everywhere. It doesn't matter what you're doing in your life. You can be building a brand new startup business. You can be running a 20-year-old Fortune 500 business, but these 6 steps will work anywhere. And you want to be able to use them to recognize increased awareness, identify the things that you need to learn, make your commitments to specific things, implementing in a specific way. There's nowhere that these steps won't work. But this evaluation phase, no matter where you're using these 6 steps, is absolutely critical.
Well, we're going to switch this up a little bit, and I'm going to ask you a question this time. Um, so when somebody goes back to evaluate what they're doing, what is it that they need to specifically look for? When they're evaluating are the first 5 steps that they're doing to know that it's working or um, projecting them forward? What is it that they need to look for?
Well, there's several different ways to look at that, Rebecca, but let's go back to the fundamentals. If I have increased my awareness that I'm going to change something and I've committed to changing it, the number one thing that we have to look at is, what did I commit to changing? What did I commit to improving? What did I commit to in step 2? In step 1, we raised our awareness. We became aware of something. But in step 2, we made a commitment to something. So when we evaluate at this stage, we go back and we look at that commitment that we made in step 2 and say, how much have I changed? How much have I improved? How do I measure that change or that commitment to improvement that I made in step 2? What am I measuring to? How much difference is it now? And if that's number one thing you want to be able to do. The number two thing that I would recommend is go back to the results that you were seeing before you raised your awareness, right? So you want to test your commitment, but let's go back a little bit further and say, what were we doing before that was not that we were not happy with, and how has this improvement or this change made it better against what we measured before, or what we were tracking before. So those are just 2 different ways that you can look at it, very, very, very simply, just using the same process. Now, there's other things that you can do too, in terms of looking at your timing. How much time have I saved? How much money have we saved? How much time have we made? Sometimes you can use these types of programs to move time forward. Sometimes you can use them to make more money, different things of that nature. But ultimately, if you go back to what you committed and what you did before in your previous activity, those are 2 of the easiest ways to really measure and evaluate.
I will mention, because you talked about the time, there are some times when we start working through these steps that what we're doing may take a little bit more time
Mm-hmm.
until we can get going on them, get them figured out and get it out smoothly. So there for a while, I mean, you have to kind of be careful of that. Just when you look at it going, man, this took me 2 hours instead of an hour and a half,
Hmm.
doing it this way. But in the long run, is it going to actually be a whole lot better? So if you're looking, don't just focus on that piece because you got to look forward also. You got to look forward to know, um, what that end is,
Hmm.
to know that, yes, once it is taking some time right now, but once I get it up and going and get it going consistently, that it's going to actually be less time.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
that's part, I mean, that's part of all of it, everything that you do evaluate with it. Because when you first make those changes, it's hard. It's hard to make a change. There's times that I will go to make a change and remember 2 weeks later, oh yeah, I'm making that change. So, so, you know, being consistent and continuing on with it, it's sometimes a little difficult, but knowing where it's going and what we're doing with it, that's a big part of it too.
Yeah. Yeah. No, exactly. Yeah, the evaluation process is a learned art. I would say it's something that you have to learn. And I know for myself, even when I look at the things that I go through, I'm not the best at it. To be quite honest, I use this system, but the evaluation stage is not my strength. I'm very good at raising awareness. I'm very good at making commitment to things. I'm very good at learning. I'm very, very good at those elements. And when it comes to the evaluation, it's not a strong point for me. But nonetheless, it doesn't matter. I still need to be doing it. And it's one of those things that will move us forward in the way that we need to is when I'm properly evaluating. And there are times when ego gets in the way and you think you're already doing the best you can do. You've already got everything figured out. You don't need to test anything. You don't need to evaluate everything. And as soon as you make that decision, you've cut your feet out from under you. You have no more position for growth. And that's something that we have to be very, very open minded to, is the fact that I don't know everything. In my industry, this might be something that I'm skilled at, that I'm gifted at, but I don't know everything. And I need to be willing to say, hey, well, I've learned what I've learned up to this point, but I do not know everything about this. And I need to continually evaluate and continue that learning curve, that learning and
What
growth program.
what was that you just said a minute ago? What? No,
Consistently learning and improving.
no, it was after that.
I have no idea what you're getting at.
I was just, it is, I think it's being recorded. So I just wanted to get that. Something about you don't know everything. I mean, there
Yeah,
was
pretty sure I don't
something
know
to that.
everything.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah, that's pretty
checking.
well that's pretty well standard. But there's a lot of times that I'll meet people, and I have met people before that are like, I know everything there is to know about this industry. If you need to know something, I can tell you. And it doesn't matter what industry it is. There's typically somebody there like that, and it's kind of sad, because if that is the position that they're in, that they already know everything, then there's no room for them to grow. And I can promise you, those that are still open minded and willing to learn something new, they will grow beyond them. They'll grow beyond them because they're stuck.
There is like one of this aspect. I have a hard time asking for help. I have a hard time um asking, even with support. We talked about this a little bit yesterday. When I can't get something to work, even just contacting support. But it's one thing that I am, aware of, and that I am trying to implement, is doing better at that if I don't know how to do something. So if there's something that you are aware of that you need to change, but you're not really sure how to do it, please reach out to someone. I mean, there is somebody out there that knows how to help you walk through that and work through it. Um, so please ask for help, talk to someone. Um,
Yep.
it's like I said, it's hard for me. I don't know why, because as Kylan has said for himself, I don't know everything either. But there's there's a more helpful way to do all of this. Anything that you're willing to change and wanting to work on, there
Mhm.
is somebody out there to help you with it. So,
Yeah. And even if there isn't somebody that knows the answer that's out there, when you start collaborating and you start thinking together, two of us is smarter than one of us. And if you get a room of three or four or five great thinkers, all of us is smarter than one of us. And that's the thing that you want to remember about this whole process is we want to be learning and growing together. In fact, again, going back to John Maxwell, John said one of the greatest things one of the best ideas that he ever has had has come from someone else. His greatest ideas have come from someone else. And what he's a huge proponent of is getting people together in a room, and he might toss out an initial thought. John's very good at putting out an initial idea, initial thought, something that we can boil around and identify, what's going to raise to the surface, what's going to rise up out of this. But he's very good at putting an idea to a team, and then that idea just rips, tears it apart, breaks it down, brings it into detail, and then out of that something amazing emerges. And that's part of what we have to be able to recognize in this whole process. And then you go back and you ask yourself on the evaluation phase, again, this part of it, what was the original idea? Right? What was the original idea and how did we come to fruition? How did we get to this point? And you begin to realize there's so much power in all the other players out there and all the other people together. When you get collaboration really working and working strong, there's so much power in that, and you want to evaluate the strongest players. It's really the idea behind the inner circle, evaluating your inner circle. Who are the people that you have closest to you that can help you build out these ideas to make something that's really powerful? And that's a big part of what you want to be able to bring into your personal growth program is who are the players? Who are the ones that can help you build something absolutely great?
yep. John, I know we talk a lot about John, but John does some pretty cool things. And
Mm-hmm.
and I'm sure there's others out there. But I particularly I connect and I like to listen to John a lot, but he does the one thing that he talks about doing is every year he takes from Christmas to New Year's and he kind of gets in his office in his quiet place and reflects on the last year. And I just
Mm-hmm.
think that's pretty cool. But he sits down and looks at the things that um what worked, what didn't work, what did I plan on having done that I didn't get done and why didn't it get done and what am I now aware of for the next step or for the next phase and I
Mm-hmm.
just think that's if you can't do it that week, but just to sit down and take some quiet time by yourself and kind of just evaluate the last year,
Yeah.
what are you aware of now that you need to do differently in your personal life, in your business life, however that works, what do you need to change? I said there used to be a guy that we would know that he was aware he was kind of a grumpy old man and he was not very polite sometimes when he would go out to restaurants or things. And every year he wrote a letter, put it in the newspaper that he apologized for the things that he said and the things that he did. Now, unfortunately, he really never evaluated and changed anything, but he was very much aware of it.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Yeah.
so just being able, if you can, just take that time, we're getting close to the end of the year and everybody's like, oh, it's a new year, it's a new me, it's a new, just do that whenever you want to. It doesn't have to be at the end of the year. It doesn't have to be, but if you can just take that time and sit down and look back and think, okay, these are the things that we need to work on now.
Yep.
So,
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, cool. Do we have anybody that wants to jump in and give some thoughts, give some comments? Our Zoom's a little short today, but we got David with us. If David wants to jump in and share some thoughts. Otherwise, if you got comments on Facebook, by all means, jump in and share your thoughts.
Um, yeah, can you hear me?
Sure
Yep.
can.
So one thing, I guess, just talking about John Maxwell, reflecting, taking the time out to do that, and other comments you've made, it it sort of sounds like growth needs to be an intentional thing, and as I mean, I agree with it. That if you have that intention, like as you always say, what you focus on grows, but it, it's something that having that intention, making that time is not something I'm really good at. And uh, it's, I don't know, it's a little bit like a diet or something like that, right? If you feel like you have to go on a diet to get something done, rather than just sort of changing your lifestyle, just doing little things incrementally, doing something, has probably a bigger, or better effect. And I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm pretty lazy when it comes to making that time or being intentional about it. So that's a problem. But I don't know. I do reflect on things as I go, and just rather than carving out the time and saying, right, I need to stop and reflect. It's just kind of part of, what I do is just working. Am I doing the right thing? Or sometimes you know you're doing the wrong thing, but you don't, you just, it's like going back to the diet. It's like, well, I know this isn't good, but I'm going to eat it anyway. And I don't know what I'm trying to say here other than it kind of, by making it a big thing, it sounds hard rather than just doing little things. And I personally, I don't think there's anything wrong with actually taking time out just to take time out, just to have a little mental break. And just, I value my weekends. I like spending time with family, obviously get odd jobs done and stuff like that. But also, I value the time just for me. Just, if I want to sit and watch a football game, I don't feel guilty about it because it's like, having a brain break. It's just doing something that I enjoy. And I don't look at it and go, oh, that was 3 hours that I just wasted. It's sort of, if
Mhm.
I didn't do that, I think you'd kind of burn out. You just need to have that mental space and feel like you can switch off and kind of do nothing for a while. It's without feeling guilty.
So, David, there's about 4 points I'm going to make with what you just said. You do have to take time for yourself, and you do have to. Everybody's different. Everybody's different on how they do things and what they consider as me time and so as long as you're doing that, because you have to de-escalate sometimes out of work. And if you're not making your evaluation and your goal setting a big thing and you're doing it maybe daily or on if you're still projecting forward and you're still moving in the direction that you want to, more power to you. That's awesome. Myself, I know I am a planner, and I have to have a plan to know where I'm going. So when it comes to eating right, if I don't have a plan of the food that I need to eat, then I just grab whatever there is. So if somebody is able, and going, yes, this is still bad for me, I'm going to eat it anyway. And then 2 days later going, man, I just feel horrible. My body aches and I'm tired all the time. And because of the food consumption that I'm doing, that comes down to choices. And for me, I get tired of listening to myself complain about my eating habits when I don't change my eating habits. But I also have to have it, if I know we're going out to eat, I will literally look up the menu and see, okay, this is going to be a pretty decent meal. But if I don't do that, then I get there and I start looking at the menu and everything looks wonderful and I just want to try everything. But everybody is different, everybody does it differently, but as long as it's projecting you forward and moving you in the direction that you want to go, then that's awesome. But if there's something in there keeping you from getting to where you want to go, then that's where you need to sit down and go, okay, I need to do something different. So, and like I said, everybody's different and they do it differently. And if you have the ability to still go in the direction that you want to moving forward at the pace that you want to, or whatever, then that's awesome. But if
I'm
there's
not saying that I do. I'm not saying that I can do without it. Maybe I should, but it's just, as I said, it seems like work to think about how work, is going, and to take that time to evaluate. John Maxwell obviously really loves it. He loves reflecting, but to me that sounds like effort. And it just makes it harder to do. It's not something that I would look forward to, I don't think. And
well, it depends on what you want the outcome to be. I mean, if you know, we talked last week, and I know you weren't able to get on the Zoom last week, but we talked last week about the implementation part, and Kylan had asked the question, can you think yourself to success? And if you could, that'd be awesome to be able to just go, hey, I'm going to be successful. And but it does take work. It does absolutely take work. And one thing about it, we've talked about entrepreneurs. It does take if you're, and I want to say this because I don't want to offend anybody, but if you're working for somebody else at a 9 to 5 and doing the things that they require you to do, it is hard work. But when you're working for yourself, you wake up every morning and you almost have to do double and triple that for your own. So it is hard. Is there the benefits to it? Maybe later on, absolutely. But you have to, it is, and just like losing weight, when it seems like work, it is hard to think about. It's not, there's the joy in the journey is what everybody says. And it's hard to see that sometimes. But like I said, David, for you, what works for you may not work for me, and that's great as long as you are progressing forward and getting to where you want to go. That's the goal of it. So, you just have to figure out what works for you and what doesn't. But for me, I have to have the plan. I have to know why I'm moving forward and how I'm going to get there. And if it does take a little extra time here and there, then so be it.
yeah, I'm not saying that I agree with you that uh it's you'll be better off for it, but I'm just saying that it's kind of it's even more effort. Colin's back now, but I've heard him say, not today, but previously, even when I choose a movie, choose something that you feel is going to be beneficial, and it's like I just choose a movie, that I want to watch, and I don't feel like I at every single turn need to be working on myself. That sort of seems to I don't know. Neither. Personally, I just like having a little like steps and stairs. Work time is work time, and when you're not, you don't have to be working on yourself. You can actually just mentally, have a break.
Well, and David, like I said, what works for you works for
Yeah,
you. What works for us, you know, Kylan
sure.
and I are even different in that aspect of it. And and it's fine. What works for him, for him to relax from work usually consists of more work. But that's the way that he is. That's his personality, and that's what he likes to do. So you got to do what works for you.
Yeah.
And just because whatever works for Kylan, if that doesn't work for you, then don't do it. So you have to be the judge of where you're going and what you're doing and how you're um
So let me throw this in here because Rebecca, you're right, David, you're right in the aspect that you know the biggest thing. Let's go back to what you said earlier, Rebecca. It's what's going to get you to your goal. What's going to get you to the vision, right? What's going to get you to the outcome? There are times, David, that it's why people go on sabbatical, right? It's why they would take time off to reflect on themselves and to be able to just relax and do something that, or do nothing, right? I mean, it's a completely different time. But the main thing is, all this, what do you have to do to be able to achieve your goals? It's this process of the 6 steps. Maybe your level of awareness is you need more relaxation time, because when you do come back from a period of relaxation, that you're 3 4 times more productive. And if you are, then you need that. But also, if you come back from a week or a month of vacation time or relaxation time, and it takes you 2 weeks to get back into the groove because just it wasn't good for you, you need to be aware of that and make those changes in these 6 steps. What are you aware of? What are you committing to? What are you changing? What are you learning? What are you going to do with that? That's why it's so important that you don't follow somebody else's exact process. You have to learn your own, and you have to learn what works for you. you know for me, and one of the reasons I've talked about the movie thing is I love the idea of watching a good movie that has something great in it. you know and one of the movies that we watched over the weekend was a really, really great movie, Christmas movie, which is not typically my favorite thing. But there was a movie that we were watching, and there were so many great points in that movie for me, because I saw my strengths, I saw my weaknesses portrayed out in that movie. And it was such a power play for me to be able to sit back and take notes on it and think, wow, Kylan, if you did this or you did that, you could make improvements. It was one of those things that, I had no intentions of learning from that movie, but I did. I did, because I'm very aware of who I am and what I need to improve on and things of that nature. So it wasn't the intention to sit down and watch that movie for that purpose, but it was something that I was able to take out of it because of that level of awareness. So that's one of the things that I'm going to challenge all of us to. And not just David here, because David's brought up some really great points. These things that feel like work, in some cases they probably are, and you probably are going to have to work on some things within your own life. But you do have to find the process that works for you. And as Rebecca said, what's going to take you to that goal? What's going to take you to that finish line? David, I know what your lifetime goal is. And that is a very big, very lofty goal. And for you to be able to achieve what you want to achieve, it's going to take a lot of intentionality. It's going to take a lot of focus. It's going to take a tremendous amount of commitment. And in order for that to become reality, which it very much can, it's going to take a lot of intentionality and probably a different kind of work than you've ever imagined. So it is something that we have to look at and say, okay, I'm aware of this feeling like work to me, but is it worth it? Is it worth it? Is it worth the effort? Is it worth the time? Is it going to be valuable enough for me and my life objectives to be able to make this work? But that's the only person that can answer that is you. The
But
only person that can answer
and
it is
just
you.
like, because David, you like watching sports. You've always said that you don't care what it is, if it's like the competition and the sports, and so you enjoy that. I have a woman in my life that she couldn't sit down and watch a movie for nothing, because she just can't take the time, but she will go spend hours and hours out in the flower garden pulling weeds and trimming flowers, and that is something that would drive me absolutely insane. But that is her thing. So everybody has their own way about it.
Mm-hmm.
Kylan likes to read. He likes to read, and but here again, and depending, Kylan and I have big goals. We have big goals that we have set for ourselves. And for us to reach that goal, it is going to take a lot. Um, and it is achievable. Is it going to take time? Absolutely. But do we also sit down? Last night there was Kearney has this really nice park, Yanni Park, and they have it all set up. Each business did a little area and decorated it with lights and everything else. And it was very nice for us to go walk through that. That was a little downtime for us, and we got to walk through it and see it. And downtime for us was Saturday, spending with the kids. And so everybody's different, but it just, like Kylan said, and we've talked about before, it depends on where you're going and what you want out of it, how fast you want to get there, and what you want to do for it. Everybody's different. There is not a set rule book that says that you have to do it all this way, but you have to do what works for you to get you to where you want to go. So,
Yep. Yep, for sure. Well, Rebecca, this has been awesome, and we've covered quite a few details here, but we could go a lot more into this whole process. But it is important that we understand who we are. That's probably your number one awareness, the number one personal development component that you need to be able to bring to the table is who am I, right? Who am I as a person? What makes me tick? What makes me valuable to society? Who am I? Who is this person that God's created that is designed to do something on purpose for a purpose? What are my greatest skills, talents, strengths, passions, desires? What are the things that motivate me? Right? Who is this person? Once you understand that, then you can begin to implement a lot of what you do. It's one of the things we talk about in our 3i Life business is the number one thing you have to be able to recognize is who am I? Who am I? Who are other people? The who you are is always more important than what you do. But unless you really understand who you are and what your greatest talents, skills, and abilities are, you're not going to know the right way to plug in your personal growth program. You're not going to know the right way to plug in your ideas for consistent growth and goal achievement and things of this nature. You're not going to be able to look back from your deathbed and say, I achieved great things, which is what the whole thing is. This journey of life is so limited. We only get so many days. And we don't know those days. So we have to be able to be intentional. Steve Jobs made the comment. He said, if you are going to work today, are you about to do the thing that you would be willing to die for? And, I'm paraphrasing, by the way, but we don't know what our last day is. We don't know if what we're doing today is going to be, if it's our last day. We don't know. So why not live it to its absolute fullest? And that starts with really knowing who you are. Who am I? It's our last day. We don't know. So why not live what's happening there, Rebecca? And that
sorry,
starts with
sorry, hit the wrong button.
I'm repeating
catch
myself.
up.
That was really freaky.
Sorry.
Okay. All right. Well, let's wrap this up. Next week, Rebecca, is our last part of this personal growth process, which is repeat. And I've had people say, well, that's not necessary. Oh, yes, it is. Because if you don't consistently evaluate and repeat the process, growth stops. Automatically, it stops. So that's going to be our discussion for next week.
Yep.
All right. Anything in wrap up, Rebecca?
Nope, I don't have anything. Everybody have a great week. Thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you next week.
Awesome. Okay. See you soon. God bless everyone. Make it awesome.